Steve Adazio does have some Big Ten connections. I know he was OC at Indiana earlier in his career. Is that right, Kevin? I mean, he's got, obviously, besides Boston College, he's got some familiarity with Kirk Ferentz and how this offense and this defense operate.
Yeah, he's obviously been all around. He spoke really highly of Kirk Ferentz, of course, and in a lot of ways, I don't want to say these teams are mirror images because obviously, it's like one of those shrinking mirrors. One is big, one is little, but they, in many ways, are fairly similar. Want to dominate up front. Nothing super crazy, flashy, or any necessarily innovative type of stuff. Just kind of beat up the other team and be better at everything than them. So in some ways they try and do the same things. Again, obviously it's at different levels. So I think there's probably a mutual respect there between the teams of like, hey, we watch the film and we kind of see us, just a different version of us. So yeah, there's some familiarity in some ways and certainly respect there.
Michael Wheatley making a prediction 31-10. I'm not going to give away my prediction at this point, but certainly that's a score I could see. I think if you're an Iowa fan, you're hoping for more than 31 points. I also think it depends on how you get to 31. Iowa, as you mentioned, Kevin, earlier in the show, has benefited from a lot of defensive scores, which is, to a point, not sustainable. Good question here from Charles. I know we're jumping all over the place. Who's going to match up with Sam Laporta at tight end? I do think there's something to be said about a team that runs, I don't want to say similar offense, or at least similar concepts, where Iowa does run tight end heavy sets. So I do think that plays to Iowa's advantage as far as being able to defend a tight end like McBride. I thought it was interesting. Kirk Ferentz said, I thought it was interesting. His terminology during his press conference this week, he said, we don't really have anybody like this kid, which I thought was interesting. Care to offer any guesses as to what he means by that? Because Iowa obviously has had its fair share of tight ends and different types of tight ends over the years.
Yeah, that's an interesting comment. I think part of it's probably just pumping up your opponent, kind of a normal coach tactic to speak very highly of who you're playing. But I think that does also speak to what Trey McBride is doing nationally and the attention he's gained. He is dominant. Iowa has seen guys like him. It's not like he's a never been seen before type of player, but that is an interesting comment to me. And like I say, it's probably partially, just praise, but partially probably putting his team on alert of watch out for this guy at Colorado State. Because if we don't give him proper attention, he'll do some real damage.
So talk a little bit about the defense. Who does match up with Sam Laporta? Iowa isn't in a position where they're going to throw a lot of 3 tight end sets. When in past years they've been able to do that, but certainly Luke Lachey is a viable number 2 option at this point, it appears. But who matches up with tight end 1 and Laporta?
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one. Daquan Jackson, captain linebacker, maybe will get some chances. That's going to be a tough matchup for him. I could see Logan Stewart at safety coming down and getting some of those matchups, but that's another Colorado State's they're pretty banged up on defense. And so they're going to have to get a little creative. And that's why, even though Iowa, again, isn't necessarily the biggest, deep pass or explosive pass offense, they're going to have some opportunities there, and I would guess they're going to want to expose that.
Web Security says, if I'm Colorado State, I've got conference calls set up with the Big 12.
Yeah, they're trying.
Yeah, so I know we talked expansion, but is there any feel that could happen?
Mm-hmm. Like I say, back in 2016, it was legitimately close. We have tons of reporting, to back that up. And so they were in that conversation. Joe Parker, the athletic director, that comment about the sky is very true. I can see stars right now outside. But so Joe Parker was in the Big 12 and has some connections there, but the football program struggling right now makes it very tough based on every national report you've seen, during this expansion talk that led to the AAC teams and BYU. Colorado State was never mentioned. Those are, very highly respected college football reporters. So, never say never because all this stuff is crazy, but it does look right now like Colorado State is on the outside looking in. They are certainly working those phone lines, trying to make it happen. And I think inside Colorado State, at, the front office, so to speak, They're a little bit more optimistic than others are. I'm not sure if that's legit optimism or kind of the optimism you have to have as you charge forward. So yeah, they're trying to keep that line hot, but they're not the only ones.
Absolutely. Doug Phelps says, I look for Iowa to use Petrus more this game. Last week developed the line for the run. This week developed them for passing. Boy, that'd be a ideal scenario. I don't know. I made the comparison this week. And Kevin, you're probably not going to know who I'm talking about, but Iowa fans really dread thinking about 2011 to 2000. I'm spitballing this as well because I don't have my years straight here, but the Greg Davis era at Iowa, and that was post Orange Bowl in 2010, and of course the departure of Marvin McNutt, Darrell Johnson, Koulianos, Ricky Stanzi, and Iowa kind of went into, I don't want to say a dark period, but if you really look at the numbers from 2011 to 2014, I mean, you had winning seasons. Of course, a terrible year in 2012 at 4-8, I believe. But Iowa's offense under Greg Davis, who had won a national title with Colt McCoy down at Texas, was really, really ugly. I mean, it was just ugly. A lot of horizontal throws, nothing downfield, and Iowa fans have kind of got sick and tired of it. Even whenever they see a game like last week, which featured very few passes down the field, that's the first thing people point to. And I did the same thing. I thought it looked a little bit Greg Davis-y. And so this is an interesting comment from Doug. I don't know, again, if you can – I don't know if the coaches plan things this way. Okay, now we're going to work on the run this week, and we're going to work – I'm not saying that's what Doug's saying, but I certainly think the run game – this was the first really impressive game last week against the run. And as Don Patterson brought out, there weren't huge holes. There weren't huge gaps. Tyler Goodson's slippery. One thing to watch for this Saturday as it relates to the offense is Ivory Kelly-Martin at running back. He's got 3 fumbles through 3 games. Of course, he's backing up Tyler Goodson. He also had another drop that ended up being called back because he was down by contact week 2 against Iowa State. But this is something that we've talked about this week, that Colorado State's going to be, this coaching staff is labeling number 21 and saying, hey, he gets the ball, he's liable to cough it up. So Colorado State's got an opportunity to force some turnovers. We don't know how much Ivory Kelly-Martin will play because Gavin Williams looked good in relief, but certainly that's got to be something that's defensive staff is looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. They highlight that, this guy is nervous with the ball. So if he has it, rip, rip, rip. And again, that's, Colorado State's going to have to, if they want to hang around, they've got to be in the plus side of the turnover battle. That's what they did against Toledo. I think they were +2 last week. You've got to do that if you want to have any chance.
As far as the score, do you care to make any, maybe not score right now, but as far as predictions as we kind of finish off this show?
Yeah, I can do a score if we want. I made one to someone else the other day, so I'll just keep sticking with that one because I feel decent about it. I think I said 34-6 for Iowa. I think the Colorado State offense just really going to struggle, and I worry for the Rams that they'll cough up the ball once or twice, and that can really swing things in a little bit more ugly way. So 34-6 is where I've got it for Iowa.
So is that a missed extra point? I'm just curious. Is that a missed extra point?
Well, I'm not totally sure. I'm thinking 2 field goals, 4 touchdowns, 2 field goals makes the most sense to me.
Okay. Well, it should be an interesting game. I think it's an underrated game on the schedule. It worries me a little less given the fact that Iowa did struggle last week against Kent State. And I'll say that's a wake-up call. But and appreciate this comment here from Joseph. Again, no offense to Levi. And I like this comment. How about this one?
I was chuckling at that one. If I can tell a quick little side story here.
Yeah, go ahead.
So before each game, I just tweet out, several hours before, I say, this Saturday's game, who's going to win? What's the score going to be? And a buddy, Eddie Hers, who covers Colorado State for another paper in Colorado, he always replies with some smart aleck score. So he'll give me a 5-3 or, a 3-2, something like that. So, it's Justin, I'm sorry, I'm screwing your name up, but,
yep.
But I was wondering if you're Eddie in disguise, because that's some he'd say. Three safeties. There we go. I love that. That's a fun one.
if Iowa gives up 3 safeties, we may see a quarterback change. I mean, I don't.
I was going to say, you're going to have a heck of a discussion next week if that happens, huh?
But again, it's sort of what we've seen so far this year, because you've got first 2 weeks where you basically Iowa's done very little offensively. And again, like the fan that called in brought out good defenses that Iowa faced, but scored a decent amount of points. I mean, 27 points against Iowa State, 34 against Indiana, but yet so many of those were defensive scores. So would not be shocked to see. We had a safety last week. I think Iowa's first safety in several seasons. Kevin, will you make it up to Iowa City?
Yep, I fly out Friday afternoon, and we'll be there for the game Saturday. So really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to see this. I know CSU fans are really excited to see Kinnick and everything. So it should be a really fun weekend.
Have you been to Iowa before?
I've been to Iowa, not out this far east in Iowa, though. So
what part of Iowa have you been to?
Kind of just through Des Moines, really, and pretty quick in and out, really, through Des Moines and then up north. So my Iowa time is fairly limited. So a good chance to see another new part of the country for me.
Absolutely, and we certainly hope you have the experience that our caller earlier had in visiting. And again, a reminder for everybody: Colorado State on the road taking on the Iowa Hawkeyes on Saturday, 2:30 p.m. And the game can, of course, be watched on Fox Sports 1. And when the game is over, be sure to tune right here to Iowa Postgame at the Voice of College Football. We'll be simulcasting on the Iowa channel as well as the Big Ten channel. And, of course, you can follow our stuff from the Hawkeye of the Storm on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. You can see there the ticker at the bottom of the screen. Kevin, again, appreciate the time, and best wishes this weekend, and safe travels to Iowa City.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.